It's great. I love this. Anime North is great. It's a lot of fun. It's really well attended. They've got overflow here with people wanting to watch the masquerade. Even they have underestimated their own power. Ooh, yeah, there they are, all standing out there. And some of them have swords and laser guns. It's going to get ugly.
I hear that's your daughter that is actually attending the masquerade this evening.
That's right. She's dressed up as Deedlit, a elfin character with armor and a sword. So, you know, kind of a tough elf, fairy character. Not your friendly kind. Not Tinkerbell, but she's wearing costume. I actually did a little of the work myself on the shoulder armor. It's her first time as a novice. It's amazing. There's, I think, 75 different entries, and of course that means groups as well as singles. I've judged a few of these at other conventions in the past, and it's always amazing the amount of work that goes into this. And it's, I think, a reflection of how people embrace the characters, the culture, the whole world. It speaks volumes to them in the struggles, the character struggles, and so on. And what's fun to watch is, I guess you could take it right back to Star Trek, the fact that the fans take over and the fans take all of these things to places that the creators may not have been planning, the companies who own them may not have been planning.
I believe Deedlit comes from a series called Record of Lodoss War. Have you actually seen any episodes?
I've sat with her and watched some. I know Parn is the guy that she's, so I know that. I know it's fairly violent. It's amazingly drawn. It's very dramatic stuff, of course, the characters and the background. The art style is amazing. And it's amazing to see as well the artwork here. I know a couple of the kids who just do, my daughter's friends who do the drawings themselves. Beautiful artwork. So I think that's what draws as well. And there's so much stuff coming out of Japan that there's really, you could go after anything you want. If you want the kind of Lord of the Rings stuff, if you want Conan, if you want Star Wars, if you want sort of the modern version of Thunderbirds with all the Gundam wing and all of that armor stuff. It's just, you know, if I was 18, well, if I was 8, no. If I was between 8 and 18, I'd be heavily into some of this. Well, I know my son is. Builds the monster killer robots and so on.
Armed with PCBs blew up the ozone layer today.
So you used to be a host of a show called Prisoners of Gravity, so you were Commander Rick. So you're obviously in tune with popular culture, like comics and movies and whatnot. So how well exposed are you with Japanese animation in particular?
When we started the show, I had heard almost nothing about it, and the comic book and a lot of the expertise behind Prisoners of Gravity was not mine. I really brought the point of view and the character and so on, but the production team were really, Mark Asquith, for example, as the producer, was the expert in comics. He knew everybody. He still knows everybody in science fiction and comics, so he provided the content. What I brought was a point of view that hopefully turned it into something you could watch on television as opposed to something you read about or just talked about at conventions. So I brought those sensibilities and the character, the idea that if I was up in space in a satellite, I could talk to anybody at any time by just pirating the signal. So the show always opened with a fake nature show called Second Nature, and then would come Commander Rick, who would take over the airwaves. And the reason I think I came up with that was because the comics themselves and all of this is kind of underground culture. It's kind of pirate culture, and it gets taken over by the people, the fans themselves start drawing and end up 10 years, 20 years later working for Marvel or DC. So the idea of a pirate broadcaster kind of worked well with that. How far have we gotten with this technology? And it also gave us a structure to format all these interviews that we had. And over the years, there were 650 of them. But as for the anime itself, we did almost nothing because this would have been 89, 90, it was really just starting. I mean, it was around, and manga and things we referred to. We got a bit of the art. The other problem we had, my coat's ringing. Oh, maybe it's the phone. Right. Hello. In the middle of an interview, I'm talking with Ron Pardo, one of the stars of the show I'm doing now, History Bites. If you really want to see how power leads to sex, look no further than this guy, Henry VIII.
When the Pope said the church wouldn't grant me a divorce, I started my own church.
With the latest generation of anime fans becoming tomorrow's creators of popular culture, where do you see Japanese animation, say, 10 years from now?
What'll be interesting, I think, is to see it start melding with the computer technology. I mean, that's what's going to happen. And that, in a way, is what's happening even to areas that I'm in, like comedy or whatever. I mean, look at Shrek that's out now. So I know just on doing History Bites, a very low-budget show, we have huge amount of possibilities if we get the technology. Just in the last year, we've added rain to scenes where there was no rain. We added snow, just very simple computer stuff that got put in afterwards. And all of the graphics that years ago ABC would have paid $50,000 to get the 2020 opening, we did it for, $80. Some guy, well, a little more than $80, but a few $100s worth of computer time on a standard software that ran on a fairly powerful Macintosh, but that's it. So the medium will change with computer. The delivery system may change with CD-ROM and internet. What will never change will be storytelling and creating characters that are interesting, creating storylines that grab people. And that ultimately is what separates something that's very popular for a very short time and something that lasts forever. And I as amazing as Titanic was, as amazing as it was, the themes, it'll never be Casablanca, because Casablanca tapped into some incredible themes about human nature and sacrifice and so on. And that's the deal. And I think with anime, you find a lot of the mythical stories, which are timeless and go back 2, 3, 4,000 years. Those are forever. And when you start tapping into those and updating them or whatever you do, you end up with timeless stories. So it's going to be interesting because I know with comic books, when I was reading them in the 60s as a kid, comic books were really an underground kids medium, considered that. And when we started Prisoners of Gravity, the adult comics were coming along, Love and Rockets and a lot of other things. Will Eisner and others were doing adult stuff. And I don't mean adult in the, explicit. I mean adult in the storyline. I mean, some of it was explicit and sold like crazy. But there was other stuff like Mouse where it was basically he took the Holocaust, the toughest story to tell, and turned it into mice and made it, I've talked to people who've read it and they wept as they read it because it's so beautifully done. So that'll be the challenge, is to see if people can then take these characters and so on and expand outwards. But we love stories. We always want to hear. All you have to say is, guess who's in love with who? And everybody wants to know, right? We all want who? Those are the universals. And when you get someone who's mastered the craft, then the joy is watching them discover, now that they learn to speak by painting or drawing or whatever, and then what do they have to say? And that's the challenge.
What do you think of Anime North, the convention?
It sucks. No, I should no, that might come out